Welcome to this web lecture about displays. Displays come in all kinds of sizes with many different functions, but before we can choose what is most appropriate, we have to consider the actual use of the display. Sometimes a display needs to be portable. The image here shows the Amazon Kindle, which uses e-ink as its technology. It is light, it uses very little power, so it is quite portable and can be used everywhere. To have privacy, we require that a screen is only readable when you view at it head-on. Some companies require their employees to actually put a filter in front of their laptop screen when they use it on a train, so that your neighbor on the train cannot read what's on your screen. Displays need to have good contrast so that they are readable even in difficult circumstances. This e-ink example is a very good example that is readable even in bright sunlight. Displays can be used like this, can be used everywhere because they use hardly any power. And also important for some displays, and it's the opposite of the privacy requirement, is that several people sometimes must be able to view the same display. So then having a good image at very large range of viewing angles is important. There are many different display technologies. We will briefly cover some of them. Monochrome displays initially was the only technology that was available, but it's not just old-fashioned from 50 years ago. It can still be quite adequate at this moment, for instance, for reading text from a book, and it comes at low cost. Most displays nowadays are so-called RGB shadow mask displays. This technology requires that there is a bright white light source, and then for the whole raster of dots we want to show, there are filters that for each dot it can let through the red, the green, or the blue color. And they're packed so closely together that you don't see the individual dots. CRTs use an electron beam that sweeps across the screen, and that may excite dots that again emit red, green, or blue color. It's not that different in terms of what the front of the screen is from the RGB shadow mask displays, but only one dot at a time is lighting up, and so you need to repeat lighting the screen many times per second to give a smooth image. LCDs were typically used first in monochrome displays. They have tiny capsules of liquid crystals that can be either transparent or opaque based on electric current. The size of the capsules limits the resolution of the display, but these types of displays use very little power. Plasma panels also use electricity, but now in a raster of horizontal and vertical wires to excite a neon-based gas, and they can be used for very large and bright displays, but have a problem of burn-in. If they show the same image for too long, it sort of burns in and becomes more or less permanent. LED displays have a light-emitting diode at every pixel. A lot of screens nowadays are sold with the term LED, but in fact only use the LEDs for the backlight of a display that doesn't have actual LEDs for every pixel. Electronic ink, a little bit like LCD displays, but it's a different technology, and e-ink doesn't require any power at all as long as the image stays the same. So when you have an e-book, the display is only using power when you turn the page. For people who cannot actually see displays, there are braille displays. They are like the matrix of dots that we normally see, but instead of seeing them, they are pins that you can feel with your fingers. There are very large displays, like in control rooms that have several very large screens, so that a lot of information can be shown across a wall. Sometimes they can also be interactive, but in a setting like the one shown on this slide, they are actually just replications of computer displays that are also available closer to the operators. And in this case, we actually see multiple desktop displays that are projected on the wall. There are heads-up displays. We see them in some cars, like in my Prius, where there is actually a projector that projects onto the windscreen, right? And so I can see the speed I'm going on the windscreen, where there is no display actually, it's a projection. There are helmet and head-mounted displays that are good for 3D applications, where the light is projected right in front of your eyes, and they need to also be equipped with motion sensors so that the image you see moves along with your head to give a feeling of immersion in a scene that isn't really there. Mobile device displays are especially challenging because of their small size. We typically use them only for very brief tasks, like sending a message. Sometimes we want to use them for playing a game or watching a movie, but that's mostly when we don't have access to a better, larger display. Watching a movie on a phone doesn't really give you the same user experience as being in a movie theater. We have to optimize for repetitive tasks, like sending and receiving messages. And sometimes we can make a custom design, like what we see in this image, which is the data lens, where we use a fisheye view to optimize the ability to look at data cells in detail while still having some overview of what is in the rest of this large matrix full of data cells. For web browsing, there is the challenge that even when we can still read the text, we still need to zoom in when we want to click on a link, because otherwise we cannot hit the exact same spot that is needed, right, for the specific link. So zooming in, zooming out happens a lot there. A lot of applications nowadays use animations, image processing, and video that requires that we have good accelerated graphics hardware. There is a lot of processing to be done. We download movies from the web, for instance with YouTube. These need to be decompressed and rendered all in real time, which requires heavy processing and heavy compression algorithms. There's also scanning of images, handwriting recognition, all very compute intensive. A lot of video material can also be available either on CD-ROMs, DVDs. Nowadays we have Blu-ray. Many sources of multimedia material that requires a lot of processing to show it to us in an enjoyable form. When we transmit such media over the network, the source needs to compress it using a lossy compression algorithm that is clever enough so that after decompressing, we actually don't see that some of the data was really eliminated. Right? We want to achieve very high compression rates, meaning that some bits of the images are really not there, but a lot of research has been performed to choose the right bits to eliminate so that the end user has the impression that the images are still there in their full glory. In video conferencing, the compression, decompressing, and all the processing is even more difficult because everything has to be done in real time. For this human technology interaction course, in the edition we gave from Eindhoven to the Higher School of Economics in Moscow, we have used the Polycom video conferencing hardware for several years, and our experience has been that the user experience isn't a very good one. The video isn't of very good quality. We get echo in the sound. It's really a challenge to have good video conferencing. And because we can't seem to make it work to our own satisfaction, we are now changing from video lectures to web lectures. Thank you for participating.